Hello, friends and fellow lovers of all things beachy. Welcome to The Beach Speaks, the podcast that shares stories about the beach and our connection to it. I'm your host and beach lover, Paige Friend, helping you reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. So grab a cool drink, relax in your beach chair, stick your toes in the sand, and enjoy this episode of The Beach Speaks. Hey, beach lover. I just returned from a fabulous week in a beachfront condo in Paso Grill. It's a gorgeous stretch of beach on the Florida Gulf Coast. It's at the very end of a chain of beaches just south of St. Pete, and it's one that's been on my beach bucket list. I could do an entire episode about this beach, and I probably will in a future episode, but for now, I recorded a little something for you while walking on the beach at sunrise, just to give you a taste of what it was like. I'm going to attempt to record what it is I'm seeing here as I'm walking along the edge of the shore. There are shells and pretty green seaweed, and it's a type of seaweed that is almost like grass, like seagrass, and it's very soft, and it doesn't have an odor. It does smell a little salty, and I'm walking in my bare feet, looking out at this beautiful blue-green water, and as you can hear in the background, just gentle waves, much like the Gulf is, not quite like the Atlantic, but has a lot of more active waves. The sky is a pink and blue, kind of like the color of cotton candy, and there are puffy clouds lining the horizon that look like, I don't know, maybe like cotton balls rising up into the sky. You can tell that there's some movement in the air. There is a cloud that I'm seeing in the distance as I'm walking along the shore, and it is rising and rising. I can hear the faint sound of maybe thunder, and that's been happening a lot the past couple of days. There have been clouds in the distance where you can hear the thunder and sometimes see lightning, and you think, uh-oh, there is going to be a storm. I better start getting ready to pack it up and go back in, but it never arrives. You can see it in the distance, you can even see the rain, but it never reaches where we are on this beach. It's like completely surrounded in a bubble of peace and serenity. Let me see if I can't record my feet on the shells. That early morning walk along the water was just what I needed to gather my thoughts and listen to what the beach had to say before sitting down to record this episode. I'd been thinking about the ocean a lot lately, and the book Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols. It's about the science that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, and more connected.
I first learned about this book in a previous episode I recorded with Amanda from Northern Tide Studio, and I've been recommending it to everyone. Amanda, who is a Blue Mind ambassador, creates beautiful ocean-inspired jewelry, and she asked me if I would like to do an Instagram Live with Jay, as we call him, to talk about the Blue Mind movement and a special giveaway he had of a signed copy of his book. Now, this was my first Instagram Live, and I was a little nervous because Jay was the expert. But I didn't really say much. I just listened to what he shared, and it really spoke to my heart. I didn't realize just how much of an impact that conversation had on me until one day, I think it was Father's Day, I opened my Instagram and the first post on my feed was an announcement that he had passed away. He was only in his early 50s. My heart sank and I immediately felt this wave of sadness move through me. I messaged Amanda. She had seen the post too and was also in shock. I told her I had this overwhelming need to do something, and I asked if she'd like to come back on the podcast and we can talk about it. We talked about what new jewelry she'd been creating and the impact of meeting Jay on that Instagram Live and Blue Mind, and I read a short excerpt from the book. Hey, Amanda, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back. It's such a pleasure speaking with you.
And so much has been happening in your world and in the world of water, shall we say,
Yes.
some good and some, sad things. And I thought I'd reach out to you because you know a lot about Blue Mind and water and the loss of Wallace J. Nichols. I wanted to reach out to you and get your thoughts on that. And then I just wanted to touch base and see what's going on with you because in the past few months since we last talked, you've been to a few beaches and you're getting ready to head to another. So yeah. So let's start. What's going on with you right now?
Well, it's summer, and I think the last time we spoke, it was winter. So this is my couple of months of being with my family and doing some events down the shore, at the Jersey Shore, and also just filling a lot of orders. Stores especially are loving the new pieces, so I just feel really blessed that my following is strong and people are just resonating with the pieces that I'm creating and the meaning behind them.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the pieces that you had done and that I had ordered and received so graciously from you, the wave and the ocean love, but I think you've got something a little more unique for the Jersey Shore and for Cape Cod. So tell me just a little bit about what you've been doing in that.
Yeah. I wanted to, as an artist, expand my line of jewelry. And the biggest purpose of why I'm doing that is to bring art, to bring the waves, the ocean, the art, the artistry behind the pieces out into the world. And I started taking classes in February with a wonderful woman who has been doing lost cast waxing for, oh gosh, probably 40 years. And I really wanted to learn how to carve my own bezels out of wax, then have them sent to New York and get casted in sterling silver. And it really meant a lot to me to be able to take my art a step further by creating my own bezels out of wax. So, long story short, after a lot of instruction, I was able to create two new pieces. One is my Jersey Tides necklace, which is a map of New Jersey. And inside the outline of New Jersey, inside, I'm able to apply sand from the Jersey Shore and then paint the ocean. So it really represents the Jersey Shore, which is, I live in New Jersey. So it just made sense for me to create a piece that represents our love for the ocean, for the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And my other piece is called Waves of Cape Cod. And that also is a map of Cape Cod because as a child, my family and I always used to travel up there, and my parents actually moved up there for 10 years. So the Cape is really a special place also for me. And I decided to carve a bezel, and it's in sterling silver. It comes with a sterling silver chain. And the same method, I applied the sand from Cape Cod and hand paint individually each and every piece to look like the waves of the ocean. And then also, my Waves of Life is my #1 best-selling necklace. I made some earrings to match them. So, a lot of new pieces that came out.
So many. Yeah. You also have one that's kind of a rectangular shape that I really like.
Yeah, that's called my High Tides bar necklace. And something different that I also added into the mix of my pieces are these meaning cards that go along with each and every piece that is purchased from my website. So I have one for Ocean Love, Solace of the Sea, Waves of Life, Jersey Tides, and the one that you were just speaking about, the rectangular bar necklace, that one is called my High Tides bar necklace. And what I love about creating these meaning cards is that it brings the person who is wearing it, it creates a connection that is just so, it resonates with everyday life. So yeah, my high tides bar necklace, I wrote, we have moments of high tides when we are feeling confident and strong. We also have moments of low tides when we need to coast through the waves of life. Wear this necklace as your reminder to be brave and confident no matter where life takes you.
Oh.
So that's just kind of like a little preview of what my customers receive with each piece that they buy.
I have to say, getting a piece from you, the way you present it, from the box to the message to the wrapping to the everything, it's just like a gift in itself. I mean, the jewelry is beautiful, but just how it's presented and everything, it really shows the care and love and just how special it is. I mean, this is a piece of you, your connection to the beach and our connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and even the packaging is really important because I want the person that is receiving the piece to really feel special. This is a piece that has so much meaning behind the ocean and our connection to it. So even the unboxing should be an experience that is unforgettable. And that's why I even took it a step further by adding these meaning cards to go along with each piece. Because, when you're purchasing a piece of jewelry, and you're wearing it, it's a story piece. It's your story of why you love the ocean, and it really opens up a lot of conversations. And even the event that I did this past weekend down in Long Beach Island, one of my customers, she actually purchased the Waves of Life necklace and the matching earrings because she said, I'm going out to dinner tonight, and I just want to wear a piece that just makes me feel connected to the water, and that when people look at it, they ask about it. They want to know the story behind it. And I gave her the meaning card to go along with it, and she's like, oh, this is wonderful, thank you. So it's stories like that, hearing individual stories from people of why they love the ocean, how much meaning it has to them, and the memories that they create just drives my passion to create this brand of jewelry that is really made for the ocean lover, for the beach girl.
Yeah, for the beach girl. Speaking of beach girl, at last we spoke, you were going on a family trip to the Gulf Coast, to Destin, I think, right? So how was that?
Oh, so beautiful. So my girls have their spring break in April, and I haven't been to Florida. I've actually never been to the Gulf Coast, but listening to your podcast really got me so excited. And it was a cold winter, as always, up in the Northeast, and you just want to get away. So I said to my husband, I said, we just need a family vacation. To the Gulf Coast. I want to experience it. I've been to a lot of beaches along the Eastern Shore, and I want to see the Gulf. I want to see the waves because as an artist, I'm always observing different elements of the beach, whether it's the sand, the ocean, the way that the waves are crashing onto the beach. As someone who creates that in jewelry, you want to be up close and personal with different varieties of coastline. So my husband, being like, the most wonderful man in the world, made it happen. And we went to Destin with my in-laws and my girls. And I have to say, wow, it's like being in the Caribbean. As soon as we stepped down into our balcony and I looked out onto the beautiful coastline, the powdery white sand, the the way that the Gulf looks is truly very similar to the Caribbean. And I was like, wow, like I've been to the Caribbean when I was little, but this is very different. And we just enjoyed every moment of Destin. And I also love the fact that the waves of the ocean, they're not so powerful compared to the Atlantic. And that's important for
Yeah.
me, having young children, going to a place where there's calm surf and they can go out and enjoy the waves without being scared of getting caught in a riptide. So, yeah, I have to say, Destin was gorgeous.
Yeah, the last time we were there, the water was so incredibly clear. Sometimes it gets a little murky because of the tides or whatever.
No, it was perfect. And the shells, I absolutely love the shells. And, just a little teaser. I was so happy that you sent me some shells. I did some collecting of shells, and I'm kind of working on some new pieces behind the scenes that might incorporate that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I come up with and maybe sharing that right before the holidays.
Good, good. Yeah, I am here on the Gulf this week. I just arrived yesterday. I'm staying at a family's timeshare that they had this free week and said, "Hey, do you want to come on over and spend the week here?" And I said, yeah, of course. Have microphone. We'll travel anywhere.
Every opportunity to get yourself to the beach.
That's right. I mean, I live down the street from the beach, where I am, but
Yeah.
it's not the Gulf Coast. It's just a completely different experience, as you have now learned, going to Destin.
Hmm.
And I am looking out the window at this beautiful white sandy beach and that beautiful blue-green water. It is very, very calm. I need to take my recorder out early in the morning and just record the sound, that gentle sound of the waves just kind of rippling up and hitting the shells and running back. It's just so beautiful. I was out there for about an hour just taking endless pictures and videos until basically the power ran out on my phone and then I had to stop.
Ah, that always happens with me. I have to, yeah, I bring an extra charger with me, like those external chargers where you can charge, because that always happens. And it's, I'm doing the same thing next week. I'm going up to Cape Cod with my family, and we rented a beach house, and it's literally right on the Nantucket Sound. Like you just step right out of the little beach cottage and you're right on the sand. So I'm going to be doing a lot of content and recording and sharing that moment with people on my Instagram, especially my Instagram followers. I'm probably going to go live. I'm going to do an Instagram live where, just giving my viewers an opportunity to take in the blue mind, to take in that
Mm.
calming effect of the ocean, even if it's from a screen. Even, whenever I'm in my studio and I want to feel connected to the ocean, and I couldn't be living farther from the ocean where my home is, I will go on YouTube, and there are loops of ocean scenes where you can just watch the waves. And I'm not big on screen time, although, like, being a small business, that's primarily, my advertisement is Instagram, and number one, connecting to my audience, connecting to people out there. But, you find these little ways to connect to the ocean because knowing, especially with Wallace J. Nichols, he created the Blue Mind movement. And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But after reading his book years ago, it all made sense that being around a body of water is just wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk to you about, because we recently lost Jay, as he was so affectionately called, suddenly. And I saw the announcement on Instagram, and I immediately thought of you, and I reached out to you and I said, did you see this?
I was crushed.
It was heartbreaking. And you who are listening right now might not have listened to our previous conversation, but I have certainly encouraged you to go back and listen to that one. And I have mentioned Blue Mind in probably every other episode after that. Actually, I referenced the book in this past episode I did with another artist and author. We were talking about Blue Mind. She hadn't heard of the book, so I had mentioned that. And I thought, I've been talking about it, and all things water are in my head. And that was another reason I wanted to reach out to you, because you embody this mindset. And
thank you.
Tell me, well, you've explained a lot of what water means to you, but in general, like Blue Mind right now, what comes to you right now? I don't know. What do you want people to know about this Blue Mind and this Blue Mind movement that is so important?
Yeah, it is so important. So Jay Nichols, also known as Wallace J. Nichols, created this Blue Mind movement. And really it's spreading the word and spreading the message of how being in, near, under, around water puts our mind into a meditative state. We often feel calm. We often feel like we have more clarity. The stress just seems to go, away. We end up just feeling a sense of peace when we are around water. Years ago when I read the book, I was like, my goodness, I'm 42 years old and I'm only realizing this now. And I'm like, why, I always want to be near the ocean. Why though? I never questioned it. I always knew that being around the ocean or any body of water changes the way my body and my mind feels. So after reading his book, probably like a year later is when I started to create my line of jewelry that really illustrates our connection to water. And I never thought we would have an opportunity to actually speak to the author of the book, but we did. You and I did an Instagram live.
I know.
And was that so
I know, that was so special. And I thought, I'm sad because I had fully intended to invite him to speak on the podcast. And for whatever reason, I just kept putting it off. And I thought, he probably wouldn't want to speak. And, I just had all this imposter syndrome kind of thing going on.
I always feel that too.
And honestly, it was right about the time that I thought, okay, I need to reach out to him, is when I saw that he's gone. But the movement is still here. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, I think I told you, I said, I really feel beholden to do my part in keeping the Blue Mind theory going, because truly, if more people heard about it and knew it or came to that realization like you did, like, no wonder I need to be near water. I mean, he references a lot of different lifestyles and different types of people respond to water, like those with addictions are helped by being in the water, near the water, around the water. Artists, how important water is to the creative process. And that, certainly works for you. I mean, it is the foundation of your business, really.
Absolutely.
And for me, I guess, I've got a podcast about the beach. I talk about water and the ocean and all that. And I am at my best when I am in tune with water in some way, shape, or form. It just, and the concept of flow is on, I think, everybody's mind, and just generally getting through life and dealing with everyday things, or if you're running a business, you want to stay in flow and things moving on, and just how water, it just helps in all of that.
It does. One thing I found that was so profound about what he said on our Instagram Live, and I encourage people to watch that Instagram Live. It's still on both of our Instagram pages, but you don't have to live near the ocean to experience Blue Mind. And if you think about it, so many of us, we don't live near the ocean. We don't live, some of us don't even live near a body of water, but there are other ways to connect to water to create that feeling of peace and calm. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that also. Like, yeah, I always thought Blue Mind, it's the ocean, but he explained different ways to connect to water when you don't live near the ocean.
Yeah. And I was thinking, well, that's probably why I just love to take a bath. I mean, even as a kid, it was just like, I just love to soak in a bath.
My 5-year-old feels the same way as I'm like trying to coax her out of the bathtub. I love how children, how they perceive water as joy, as fun, as as a parent, you're sometimes with little ones, you're fearful of water, but to them, it's the best thing ever. And you're like, I wish I had that mindset. I wish I could just
Yeah.
let it go, let the stresses of life and just float.
Yeah, we've been experiencing that with our grandchildren that are toddlers. We've got a 2-year-old and an 18-month-old, and they'll go out into the ocean. That's fine, but they love the pool, in and out, just, jumping in and floating and jumping. They're not really ready to swim yet because they have their floaties and everything on, but it just so the joy of just like jumping off the edge and into the water and
Yeah, they and it's the trust,
yeah.
the joy and the trust. They, trust themselves to be in water. Whereas parents, when we step aside, and so many mothers can relate to this, we are absolutely terrified when our kids are, even with floaties. And I've kind of learned to let that go. I stay vigilant, whenever my children are in water. My older daughter, she learned to swim on her own. Very few swim lessons she's had, but because of those floaties, she kind of learned. And eventually, we had to let go and say, okay,
Yeah.
swim. And my 5-year-old is a whole different story. She's very brave. But yeah, I love watching children just enjoy the moments in water with a carefree mind.
Exactly, exactly. Tell me about you're going back to the Cape.
I am. This is like a family tradition. As a child, my family, we would spend tons of moments down in the Jersey Shore. But one place that really sticks out is Cape Cod. And this was a family vacation. I'm an only child. So, it was just kind of me, my mom and dad. And we would go up and for 1 week spend time on the Cape. And I remember my dad loved to swim in the Nantucket Sound with me. And those memories just held so tight to me. And later they actually moved up there. And sadly, my father passed away suddenly when I was 35. And we moved my mom back to New Jersey. And we continued that tradition as our family now, my husband and 2 girls, to make that commitment to always go up to Cape Cod and spend a week up there. And really, that's one of my happy places. I feel connected to my father being on the Cape. I feel connected to childhood memories, and now I got engaged on Cape Cod back in February of 2000.
Oh,
Yeah, I got engaged on Corporation Beach. It was Valentine's Day 2009, and then I remember another special moment is we struggled to get pregnant for so long. We adopted our first daughter, and my second daughter was just such a surprise. And I was terrified of being pregnant at the time, going through so much loss. And I remember being on Cape Cod months before she was born, and we couldn't really settle on a name. And I wrote the name Selah in the sand. And I was like, this is her name. It's Selah. And I took a picture. So I still have the picture. There's so many cherished memories on Cape Cod, and that's one of the reasons why I actually made that piece, The Waves of Cape Cod, and the meaning behind it, because I think a lot of people that either go down to the Jersey Shore or they even go to Florida, my Waves of Life has so much connection. And the Waves of Cape Cod, there's so many of us that have that personal connection to a body of water, and that was my passion. And it's actually because I don't live near the ocean that really drives my passion to create these pieces. And I think that's something that is really special.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Are you going to incorporate any kind of new tradition for your girls, or is this the going and carrying on your family's tradition, what you're doing? I'm just curious if there's anything that you and the girls do that's kind of super special to you all.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple of things, actually. Well, going back to when I was a child, a couple of summers we would be on Cape Cod when the moon was full. And I remember just sitting there for hours on the beach and watching the full moon. And later on, when I got married, my husband and I would just do a spontaneous date night down to Ocean Grove in New Jersey when the moon was full and sparkling on the water, and we would just go down there. And then later that turned into, let's pack a beach dinner and let's drive down and, hang out on the beach during the full moon. And we continue that tradition in Cape Cod. I actually, people might find this like strange, but I don't care. It's like my tradition. I always plan our vacations to Cape Cod around the full moon, just so we can have that special time on the beach with family. That's when the crowds go away and you feel like you're not distracted by so much. You just sit on the beach with a beach blanket with my husband and my girls, with this beautiful moon over the water, and we can just have the most meaningful conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Another tradition we have is going back to Corporation Beach where my husband proposed. And as a family of four now, knowing the struggles I had with trying to get pregnant, the ups and downs of trying to adopt, going back to the moment where my husband asked me to be his wife, we love it. We just go back to that beach. I always have my camera going, my video of them catching hermit crabs in the bay, and we could spend hours up there. And now it's funny, we actually bring our dog up to Cape Cod. So we bring the whole family.
Okay, there you go. Get the dog involved.
Oh, my Levi. My Levi is like the best dog in the world. He's a English Golden Retriever, and he's just like, he's like a kid. So he's like my third child.
Yeah.
Creating those memories, and you've created those memories of the beach, those special memories, those traditions that hold so close to you. And yeah, that's what we love to do.
I kind of have to laugh about your description of being at the beach at the full moon, because I just did an episode about being disappointed by the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And how can that be so? But I actually was for a moment, because I love those quiet moments when nobody is around and the moon just pops up over the horizon, this bright globe, and the lights that come across the ocean.
They're like tiny little diamonds.
Exactly. Nobody else is around, or very few. It's very quiet. It's just a whole different kind of vibe. And that's what I was expecting the last full moon, because I had been missing going to see the moon rise over the ocean because we'd been traveling, or maybe there would be a storm or something. You just couldn't see the moon, whatever. This time I'm going out there and I'm expecting this beautiful scenario, and it was everything but that.
Really?
There was dredging equipment. They're reclaiming the beach. They're pumping up sand from out in the ocean to help build up the sand dunes for hurricane season.
Yep.
So there was that. And then there's just a ton of people out. I couldn't find a place that was quiet enough to sit alone by myself. It seemed like every time I sat down and held up my phone to take a picture of something, somebody would walk right in front of me and stand there. And then I'm looking out, and instead of this beautiful dark velvet sky with little stars and then the moon coming up, it was just this huge storm cloud coming across the sky.
Oh, no.
And this weird orange glow. It was it was strange. It was like, I don't recall the moon, shining through the clouds looking orange, but okay. It looked more like the sunrise. And it just was all kinds of weird. It was beautiful in its own right, especially when I decided, okay, this is not what I expected, but go walk out in that water right now. It was like, give myself an order. You go out there and stand in those waves and look out at the horizon and just feel, because there were waves were like really active.
Wow.
And I was hoping it would be nice and calm. And you just hear, so I'm standing there and kind of like those waves of life, they were knocking me and I was having to really stand there and feel that energy. And of course it's full moon. So, that energy is pretty strong. And I learned my lesson. I have to manage my expectations because I cannot have any serenity if my expectations are really high. I had to just let go of that and think, this is super cool, actually. We've got these weird kind of clouds coming by and this glowing orangey light, and there's other people around. And then just like all of a sudden, all that kind of went away. And I was just there. It was just me and the waves and the beach, and all was well, no expectations, just take it in. And I did. And it was beautiful. So, there's always a lesson.
Yes. Just kind of listening to you talk about that, there's always an ocean story or an ocean lesson. And I've had moments where, we've gone on vacation and it is just, the weather has been awful. It's been gray, cloudy, cold. The waves have been too rough. But I look at it as a lesson. The waves are unpredictable, like our lives. Our lives are very unpredictable. We go through the waves of life. So at that moment where there was a lot of people and they were working on building up the sand dunes and the sky wasn't clear and the waves were crashing on the shore, that really is a kind of a moment to look at as a lesson that the waves are unpredictable and the waves can be strong, but they don't knock us down always. They teach us a lesson that, during this time of uncertainty, during this time when we may not be feeling like our best selves, the waves keep on crashing onto shore, whether the sky is clear, whether there's a storm coming, whether there's people around us. We are, as individuals, are learning to coast through the waves. And I think that, I probably I've been just as disappointed as you, but now kind of going back thinking that, wow, maybe what was the ocean teaching me at that very moment? As I'm standing at the coast and these waves are crashing and they're not knocking me down, but they are there and they're strong and powerful. I think now what I try to do, and I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life, I look at it as a life lesson, as what is God trying to teach me at that very moment. And the waves really illustrate such a powerful statement of us as individuals and how strong we really are.
Yeah. And before we wrap this up, I just want to get back to Jay Nichols and Blue Mind. I know that you are a Blue Mind ambassador. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about your involvement in that and what do we need to do? Because we need to carry on this movement, I believe.
Absolutely. I know that Jay, this was months ago when I was texting Jay back and forth, and actually the first text message I got from him, and he said, well, thank you for being a Blue Mind ambassador. And I was like, oh my goodness, is he really like, is this like a message that's sending out to like 1,000 people? And I responded to him, and he just, it was an open conversation that him and I started having about ways that we can make an impact, ways that we can spread the word of Blue Mind. And that led, me being brave enough because talk about that imposter syndrome. I was like, all right, feel the fear and just do it. So I asked him to do an Instagram live. And I have to say, like, he's the most humble person that I've ever spoken to, and so passionate about this Blue Mind movement that he has so lovingly taken hold of him and wanting to spread the word. So he was planning A lot of things. I remember that he was going to do a getaway, like a Blue Mind workshop, where Blue Mind ambassadors, people that want to learn about Blue Mind, we would all go and meet at a certain location to be educated about the ways that water impacts our lives. And then we would be able to then go out and spread the word. Unfortunately, that I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't even know if you can go to his website to still sign up because everyone was kind of rocked when we found out that, Jay passed away, especially at the young age of 56.
Yeah, I know.
I know that there has been a lot of advocates out there that will continue to spread the Blue Mind movement. All I know is that speaking to Jay and hearing his passion, hearing his love for people, and wanting to help them in a holistic way and connecting them to the water, to not, to be in that red mind state where you're in this fight or flight moment, when you're working, when you're in a city, like when you're on your screen, and just hearing his passion. It really shook me when he passed away, and it took me about a week, honestly, a full week to really get out of this funk of like, what do I do now? Like, he was kind of like the father of Blue Mind. What are we going to do? How are we going to continue to spread his word? We had such an amazing conversation on that Instagram Live. It was like connecting to a brother, a father, a person, a man that just had so much love for people in a world where some of us are so against each other. And to find that way of feeling at peace, knowing that being around the water creates that feeling. He did this marble project, and I actually have a little blue marble. And what I love about how he portrayed this blue marble is that we are so tiny on this giant blue planet. And you think about it, how tiny we are and what we can do as a society, as people, to protect our oceans, to continue, because without protecting our oceans, without advocating for clean water and for marine life, those places that you go to create that, to have that feeling of peace and calm won't always be there. And after he passed away, there were two things that I did because I was like just not in the right mindset. One, I bought like a whole bunch of blue marbles. And two, I bought a second copy of his book.
That was why I wanted to do this podcast, for sure, just to acknowledge him and his work in the world and how we really want to carry that on. And you, through your art, I was thinking, well, what can I do? And my gift is my voice. My gift is this podcast. My gift is the ability to reach out to the listener out there who loves the beach, who loves the water, who wants to embrace that blue mind and, get rid of the red mind and the stress and all of the things. I think what I'm going to do is end with, at the end of his book, before he goes into the acknowledgments, he says, all I really want to say is this: get in the water. Walk along the water, move across its surface, get under it, sit in it, leap into it, listen to it, touch the water, close your eyes and drink a big glass. Fall more deeply in love with water in all its shapes, colors, and forms. Let it heal you and make you a better, stronger version of yourself. You need water, and water needs you now. I wish you water. Oh, that's so beautiful.
It is so powerful. It's the truth. It's humble. And that is the spirit of Jay.
I'm curious, how did this episode resonate with you? I mean, everyone has a story about water, right? Like, what was it like the first time you saw the ocean? Or holidays you spent at the lake? Or maybe learning to swim I'd like to know. So record a voicemail or send me a message. The links are in the show notes. And I'll also post the link to the Instagram Live that Amanda and I talk about. Right now, I'm thinking about the ocean that's just down the street from my house and how being near it, to just hear it, makes me feel happier and more connected. And it occurred to me that although this podcast is about the beach, there would be no beach without water. Before you leave, take a minute to listen to this sound from the shore. What is the beach saying to you today? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Beach Speaks. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the beachy vibes and share it with a friend. Because, let's be honest, who doesn't want more beach in their lives? And if more beach is what you crave, go to thebeachspeaks.com and sign up for my newsletter. It's an easy way to stay in the know, collect some tips and travel hacks for your next beach adventure, and find out what I'm doing at the beach. And if you want to dive deeper into the ocean of support, consider becoming a Beach Speaks Patreon member. Your contribution helps keep the podcast afloat, and you'll enjoy some cool perks that only our Patreon family gets to enjoy. The beach is speaking. Are you listening?